continuous improvement journey. This is not a one-shot program. Certification only means that the basic foundation of a quality system is in place. The ISO 9000 guidelines and certification requirements provide an excellent foundation for continuous improvement. Successful companies utilizing ISO 9000 use the ISO standards as a foundation to their overall approach to quality. There is great value to the ISO standards, but they must not be treated as an end in themselves. Always remember, the ISO 9000 series standards are designed to define minimum quality system requirements for manufacturing and service groups. ISO 9000 is not a total solution for inadequate quality or a guaranteed prescription for success. ISO 9000 is a good starting point. If it is monitored diligently, it can establish a platform for success, provide benefits to the company, and lead to heightened assurance on the part of customers that a supplier is serious about and actively pursuing quality. The ISO 9000 guidelines will only be valuable if the certified company builds upon the foundation with a strong and committed effort to make the ongoing pursuit of quality a real company priority. To think of ISO 9000 by itself as a solution to poor quality does disservice to both customers and suppliers. As in any long-range pursuit, ongoing commitment on the part of both leadership and the employees in the organization is a critical requirement. Only if there is a widespread and serious commitment to continue to improve all systems with a focus on customer satisfaction will any quality effort ultimately be successful. The attainment of ISO 9000 certification is but one step in the quality journey and must always be kept in this perspective. I want to leave you with an experience I had when I first began researching and learning about ISO 9000. I had the good fortune to meet Kurt Reinhem, who administers the Malcolm Baldrige Award process in the United States. The Malcolm Baldrige Award recognizes companies that have achieved world-class status in their quality improvement efforts. I asked Mr. Reinhem to relate ISO 9000 certification to the Malcolm Baldrige Award process. He described the difference to me by sharing a short story about physical exercise. Many of us are now more aware of how important physical exercise is to our health. We pursue many varied activities like running, joining a gym, or playing a sport. Some of us work hard enough to reach a very good level of physical fitness. Very, very few individuals reach a level far beyond just being in good shape and have toned their bodies to such a high level that they are ready to compete in the Olympic Games. If we relate ISO 9000 to physical fitness, complying with the ISO 9000 requirement gets us in very good physical shape. It gives our companies a great foundation, but our company still has a long way to go to get to the level of fitness where we can compete in the Olympics and be recognized as world-class performers. ISO 9000 is a starting point on a company's journey to world-class quality status. Good luck for those of you committed to this journey, this long, hard journey. Thank you for your attention, and I now look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Zalatan. Now we are going to continue with the second question and answer session. First question is coming via fax, and it's coming from Fundación Vanzolini from Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is the foundation. Foundation Vanzolini is a certification organization accredited in Brazil, which has already granted 80 certificates ISO 9000, and even to important multinationals. What would be the way of obtaining acceptance of these certificates in the first world without the need of partnership with other institutions?
Well, to answer your question, I think just the fact alone that you have, your organization has certified 80 countries in Brazil. Also, as you mentioned, many of these countries, some of these companies are multinational. I believe these facts alone will start getting your organization credibility and visibility around the world. The companies I mentioned earlier, like Lloyd's, Detnors Veritas, the British Standards Institute, have been in business for many, many years and do much more than just ISO certification. So they have built reputations around the world as being experts in verifying systems, not only quality systems, but also many other activities these businesses participate in. So it takes time to build an international reputation. All I can say is you have a very, very good start.
We have another question coming from Brazil. This one is coming from Rio de Janeiro. And it says, in the United States, are there any feedback or penalties for the certified companies with rejected products by the clients?
One of the very most important criteria for a company to be ISO certified is for that company to have a good system in place to resolve customer problems and to understand customer complaints and then take the appropriate action on these customer problems and customer complaints. Today there is one weakness in the quality standard in that it does allow a company to actually produce a defective product. You can be certified and produce a defective product as long as you have a very good system in place to, once you understand and once you have identified this problem, have a system in place to resolve it. So today you can be certified and have problems with your customers. The important thing from a system standpoint and from a process standpoint is that you must demonstrate that you have a system to resolve these customer problems.
First question coming via phone in this second session is coming from from Tula Tepeji Technological University, Mexico. Good morning. The first question is, what are the techniques that, statistic technique that ISO 9000 approves to be implemented in an organization?
What are the sophisticated techniques? ISO 9000 does not tell a company what specific techniques or business processes to use. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It gives you guidelines on what should be, what kinds of controls need to be in place in your business. It doesn't tell you how to establish these controls. So, to answer your question, there are many, many ways to achieve the end objectives of ISO as far as specific techniques. ISO really asks you to demonstrate that you have the proper controls in place. How you implement these specific techniques to achieve these controls is up to you.
Statistics techniques. We have more questions. This one is coming from Paraguay Industrial Union in Paraguay. Maybe you can pick it up next, the statistics technique. We are calling from Paraguay. We have an electronic bank that is trying to establish the quality system under ISO 9001. We have reached a point where there are internal conflicts amongst the directors and managers. Is this a normal thing? I think that is the problem going to go away once we are starting the implementation, or do you have any other suggestions that we should apply in resolving this? Also, what other kind of technical information or training do the auditors need for the certification of quality and accreditation?
Well, you mentioned you are going through some conflicts and some maybe some disagreements. This is not unusual for any company that is embarking upon a change program like ISO, developing a very new system in a company. This is not unusual. To resolve these conflicts, again, you need to have upper management really take charge of the program and make sure that the direction is very, very clear. And there needs to be somebody responsible within the company to resolve these conflicts. As I mentioned in my talk, there needs to be a very, very strong executive manager to be assigned the program responsibility. It's that manager's responsibility to work with all the functional directors and resolve any conflicts and help them implement ISO to help the business become more successful. So I think you need to have a strong focal point within the company to help resolve these issues. It's not unusual to have conflicts, but again, you need to have a strong program manager to overcome these conflicts and help the functional directors and guide them to long-term success. As far as auditing, you need to have an internal audit program established within your company, and this is one of the requirements of ISO. It is a very good idea to give these. There's many different ways to train internal auditors. There are many seminars on internal auditing offered around the world. I myself teach internal auditing to companies. There are many, you can pick up any quality magazine or any technical magazine and see advertisements of companies that do specific training for internal auditing and also for ISO auditing.
Now we have another question coming from Panama, from the Technological University of Panama. Good morning. We're calling from the University of Panama, Technological University. Can this ISO 9000 system be implemented to improve the quality of services in the health sector? And how can it be considered as a whole? And how can you relate this to the other parts of the world that have applied the ISO 9000 in the health sector?
Yes, I could say yes, it does apply to the health and medical industry. In fact, now today as we talk, I am working with my first company, helping a company that is in the health business in the biomedical field. And as I have learned working with this company, many of you may be familiar in the United States, there have always been a set of good manufacturing practices required by the Federal Food and Drug Administration for medical companies and health companies. These good manufacturing practices today are being revised and actually taking the ISO standard as their foundation and then putting in some specific industry-related incremental things into the standard. But ISO 9000 is now going to become the basis for the good manufacturing practices, which is a recognized standard for all medical and health businesses in the United States.
Atendemos ahora una llamada de nuestra vecina, la ciudad de Tijuana. Viene de Sanyo, de Norteamérica, en la Baja California.
This call is coming from Sanyo, North America, from Tijuana.
Sí, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Sí, no tenemos duda nosotros del beneficio.
No
de
doubt,
implementar el sistema
implementing ISO 9000 is really an excellent idea.
Pero parece que implementar
But I think that implementing this system
genera o exige
generates
mucha
or
documentación que se debe
or demands a lot of documentation that we must monitor.
controlar. ¿Cómo simplificar
How
o
can we
evitar caer en
simplify,
la
or how can we
burocracia, papeleo, digamos,
avoid getting into the red tape and processing
para que todo
of
mundo, digamos,
papers so that everybody at a certain point
lea esta documentación.
can really read all those documents?
Gracias.
That's the question. Thank you.
That is a very, very excellent question. It is very amazing to me as I work with companies to find what they do with a 7-page ISO 9001 standard. They take these 7 pages and create monsters and monsters and volumes of paperwork to comply with this 7-page standard. I totally agree with you that many times companies go way overboard in documentation. My approach to documentation is to keep it very, very simple, to keep it to as much as possible, focus on the basic flow charts and very, very few words, and keep the documents very, very simple, but also focus on the key control points that ISO requires. I believe this can be done without a lot of bureaucratic and paperwork and procedures that nobody reads. You need to keep the procedures very, very simple and to the point.
Regresamos a Argentina con otra pregunta de la
And this is a
Universidad
question
Nacional
coming
de
from
Córdoba.
Argentina, from the Cordoba University, National University of Cordoba. We would like the expert explain to us a little more about his experiences on the details of implementing ISO 9000 on small businesses and family businesses, or businesses that have structures, medium-sized structure, and also the financial support or credit for them. And also, what kind of enterprises have actually implemented some of these techniques and have been subject to failure? What to do with that? How to face these cases?
First of all, I have worked with many, many small businesses in helping them achieve ISO 9000. What I have found is the same principles that apply to big businesses apply to small businesses. ISO 9000 is a generic set of common sense principles that all businesses, large or small, should follow. Of course, when dealing with a small business, you must take into consideration that in a small business, many times people perform many different functions. So really the key when dealing with a small business is really looking at the process itself and documenting the process. And in many cases it's very simple, but really understanding the process of how, for example, how do contracts get processed and approved in the business, how are designs created, how is production controlled. The same principles apply, whether it be a large business or a small business. As far as failure, I mentioned that many times people do not pass an initial certification audit. This does not mean they necessarily failed. It means that there are elements of their system that need to be improved before they can achieve the ultimate certification. If you are in this and committed to this, you will achieve certification. Sometimes it's a matter of time. It takes some companies have a longer learning curve than others. The key is to have that dedication and commitment to the long-term success to achieve certification. I am not myself aware of any company that really has seriously pursued this not to ultimately achieve their goal.
And now we're having a call from Mexico, from Cuautitlan, Mexico, from the university. In a country where the world-class techniques are just beginning to be implemented, how possible is to change the culture that you have been mentioning to implement ISO 9000, and how can we deal with these processes?
Where the culture is, where the quality awareness and quality culture is still something new, obviously your path is going to be longer and in some cases more painful than companies that are more advanced with their quality culture. The one great advantage that ISO 9000 offers to a company or the country that is just emerging its quality culture, it gives you a good set of basic foundation principles to start with, and it helps guide you and helps give you the good starting point. So I highly recommend that you examine the standard and use the standard to help you in your journey to change the culture.
This question is coming from Apatzingan, Michoacan, Mexico, another technological institute. Good morning. We have the following question for you. The system ISO 9000, would it function within a small industry that is just created with a very limited capital and with very few human resources? What would be the next step after having complied with the standards? How can you maintain them, or should you propose improvement of those standards?
Well, as I have mentioned, the standard is just a starting point. It gives a good foundation of all the minimum system requirements any good company should have in place. So the answer to your question is, this is a good starting point. I recommend it for either large or small companies to use these principles as guidelines and just use them as a basis once certification is achieved for continuous improvement, to build and continually get better and better. They are only minimum requirements. Never forget this.
Thank you, Mr. Zalatan. We hope this video conference has been, you have enjoyed it. And we will continue transmitting programs on the latest in management techniques and systems and global competitiveness. We invite you to participate on October 25 in the next program of our series, Strategic Resource Management, entitled Waste Management and the Environment, Innovative Systems for Industrial, Commercial, and Residential Applications. We also look forward to your participation on November 9 in the 7th and last video conference in this series entitled Management Systems for the 21st Century, and which is Customer Service and Global Competitiveness Foundations for Excellence. For additional information on ITC programs, you may consult your print package where you will find the dates and specific topics of our 3 series. On behalf of all of us who collaborate with the International Training Center, I thank you for your participation and interest in today's program. Thank you very much, and see you soon.